So here you can see the abdominal cavity right here, right? And what separates the abdominal cavity and the thoracic cavity from each other is the diaphragm. So, but the other thing, when you're in the thoracic cavity, you have a couple other little cavities right here. You have the pericardial cavity where the heart is situated, right? And then you got the pleural cavity where the lungs are actually situated, okay? So, thoracic cavity, and then you have the abdominal cavity right here. Here's the abdominal cavity, here's the thoracic cavity, right? But just keep in mind that there are a couple other smaller cavities within the thoracic cavity. Right? Now, one of the things I'll talk about first is this structure right here. So in the thoracic cavity, sitting on the ventral surface of the heart, okay, is this gland right here. Okay. This is the thymus gland. Okay. So the thymus gland, that's responsible for T cell maturation. Right. So those T lymphocytes, they mature right here. Okay. So make sure you guys know that. So as we take the pericardial sac off, pericardium off, okay. You can see the ventricle that I'm holding. So here is the left atrium. Here is the right atrium. And then when you take a look at the heart, you can't really notice it, but there's an anterior longitudinal sulcus that comes right across right here. You'll see it when we actually, on some of the rats you'll see it, some of the other organisms you'll see it on. This one, on this particular one, you don't see it as nicely, but basically, I could ask you on, not necessarily this particular one because it's not noticeable, but the left ventricle is on this side and the right ventricle is over here on this side over here. But usually what you'll see this little sulcus, which is a little groove, right? And inside that groove you'll see some of the coronary vessels in there. So when we open up the sheep part, and look at the sheep part, and when we look at the fetal pig, you'll be able to notice those. And even some of the other rats you should be able to notice as well. Okay? So there's the heart right there. And then on this one, what you can actually see is the aorta. Oops, let me find this out of the way a little bit. Is the aorta? Oh, you guys can see it very well. There's the aorta coming out right through here. This is the aortic arch. It's going to bend in that direction, right? And so what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to go over all these vessels today. I'll just wait to go over the vessels like on Monday with you guys, okay? Right. So on each side of the heart, here are the lungs. Right, so you can see the different lung lobes over here. Right. And what takes the air in and out of the lungs is, here's the trachea. And then when you come up here, you can potentially find some of the various glands, the thyroid glands and the parathyroid glands. Right. But this is the trachea right here. Okay, so here's the trachea. So we got the trachea bringing the air in and out of the lungs. Right. We got the left ventricle, the right ventricle, the right atrium, and the left atrium right there. Okay. Now, and then the diaphragm separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. So posterior or dorsal to the so you see this tube that I have right here? Okay. This is the esophagus. Okay. So here's the esophagus. So it's posterior or dorsal in this case, right? Dorsal to the trachea, posterior on us. So here's the esophagus right here. Okay. That's going to come down. And as I move the liver out of the way a little bit, that's going to take food down into the stomach. I didn't show you the esophagus on the shard and the perch and the salamander just because there's all that stuff right there. I didn't want to rip stuff out of the way. Okay. But it's going to bring it down here to the stomach. So here's the stomach, right over here. Okay. Now, on the greater curvature of the stomach, this outer curve of the stomach, lies the spleen. Okay, so here's the spleen right here. Now the one thing that we're not really seeing a whole lot on this rat is the greater omentum. Okay. So you can see this fat that I'm kind of lifting up right here. You can see this other connective tissue stuff right here. This is the greater omentum. This is the belly fat that you don't want to get. Okay. Alright? So this is the greater omentum. And on some of the other rats, you'll really notice the greater omentum a lot. This one isn't so great looking. Right. On the rat, there is no gallbladder. Right. So we've got the stomach kind of coming around. The first curve is the duodenum. So here's the duodenum. Going right here in my finger. So here's the end of the stomach. Here's the duodenum. And as I move this stuff up and out, see this brown substance right here? This brown stuff that's all over here? That's the pancreas. Okay, so here's the pancreas. And this brings us down into the intestines. So here's the small intestines. You can see. So here's the small intestine. You can see the mesenteries and the mesenteric vessels right here. As we follow this around, see this little structure right here? This is the cecum. Remember, the cecum is at the junction between the small intestine and the large intestine. Right? So it's on the large intestine side. Right? So if you find the cecum, right, you can go. Here's the small intestines, and then here starts the kind of flip things around. Here starts the large intestines, right? And then you can follow the large intestines around. The small intestines there, and then here's large intestines right through here. And ultimately comes out through the anus, right over here. Okay. All right. So liver, right? No gallbladder, so don't look for the gallbladder. Okay. We got the spleen right here. Here's a kidney right here. So see this structure right here? Here's the kidney. And sitting on top of the kidney, see this little gland that's right there? Oftentimes when you look at it and you're identifying, or if you look at diagrams, it'll say suprarenal gland. Okay. That's also known as the adrenal gland. Okay. So that here's where your norepinephrine, your epinephrine, and so forth come from. Okay. Suprarenal gland or the adrenal gland. Excuse me, the adrenal gland. Same position in us. Okay. So here's the kidney. Now the kidneys they're in the abdominal cavity, but they're also separated from the abdominal cavity with the connective tissue. Okay. And the kidneys are actually in the retroperitoneal cavity. Right. There actually is a little connective tissue that actually separates that. Right. All right. And then as we find the kidneys, and we come to this little bean portion of it, and I'll go over I'll cut it open next time. So all the vessels are going to go in and out of the kidney right here, where this portion is called the hilus, where it kind of dips in. So what I want to find for you guys is the ureter. There's a dorsal aorta right here. See this thin structure that's going over the probe? That's the ureter. So this was going to take urine from the kidneys down towards the bladder. And the bladder is right here. Here's the bladder. So here's the bladder. And oftentimes in anatomy, people are always poking the bladder, and finally poke it enough, and there's a little hole that develops and it squirts your lap partner, if not yourself in the eye. So here's the bladder right here. So here's the ureter. If I ask ureter questions on there, I'll make sure that you can see it coming out of the kidney. Okay. The vessels going in to and from the kidney are short. Those vessels are right here. Okay. So I'll dissect this more cleanly. You can see how, as I lift up on this, see how the kidney is kind of being tugged. That's the ureter. So on lab practical stuff, I'll make sure that it's dissected out there. Okay. So we got the kidney, and then you have the suprarenal gland right up here. Okay, that's where your adrenaline's going to get produced. Now, this is a female, so if you're looking, you see the structure here and right here. These are the ovaries.
Is the yellow just fat?
Yeah, that's fat. That's the fat. So embedded in all this stuff is the ovary and the fallopian tubes, okay? And then starting right here, this is one of the uterine horns. So like in the shark, that was one of the uterine horns that it was. It was a portion of the uterus, okay? All right. Whereas if you look at the human, right, we don't have these big old long horns coming up. Those are the fallopian tubes that come up, right? And so the main body of the uterus is right here. This is a uterine horn. This is another uterine horn over here. And then that'll lead out into here's the vagina right over here. And then on the male rat, what you'll see the two large testes on there. All right, and I think outside of the abdominal cavity, but inside the body. Yeah. Because if your testes are outside the body, you're in trouble. All right, so that's pretty much everything for this guy. And then we can go over the male rat next time, all right? And then just give you some time to kind of look over some things, take some photos. Battery?
Yeah.